only word.
Oh, no. You want all three?
Yeah.
Learning and
Commitment. You want to commit to something, or somebody should commit to you, or
I want to
already now?
Well, we already have some partnerships in the room, but my company deals a lot in material science
Yeah.
and sustainability as well.
Sustainability. Okay, to share? Inspiration, new knowledge, and the third word? You have, but that's good enough. Thank you very much. Any third volunteer? Pia Kinhult, Almers. Input all along the way. Now it's time for our hosts, because all of this is possible because of Vetenskapsrådet and Vinnova, and we have the two director generals here.
And most welcome from the Swedish Research Council. I can start by saying that.
And a warm welcome from Vinnova.
Yeah. So I'm really, really happy to see so many people here, actually. That was only 3. 2 of them actually were digital because of COVID, of course. And now we are here in Mölndal, and we really appreciate to be in this environment, I must say. It's fantastic. Actually, this is the first time I just heard that we are here in this building, and so it's a kind of inauguration, actually. Visions, and where we see that these fantastic facilities can and will help to solve a lot of societal challenges. In this kind of a wake-up call, I must say, to Europe. And if you read the report, you can also see that there are big discrepancies between the north and the south of Europe and research. Of course, we must and can always be better and act faster, maybe, but not losing the long-term perspective, which we are very good at, I would say, in this part of the world. And yesterday, I think, tried to speak about what is needed in Europe in the future, and what is needed to strengthen the European competitiveness in the very important better coordination in EU, both funding and investments, of course, and collaboration in different ways. And also, and I know that many people are looking at the reports right now and trying to make plans in how to enhance the competitiveness of Europe in many different ways. These reports also, as a funding body, research and innovation, we need to experiment maybe a little bit more than we have done so far, and still keep, of course, focus on high quality, because that is what counts in the end. So I think with that is what they said by the end of year 2028. If that will be enough, we'll see. But we also heard a little bit about what is in the text and what they want to put in that. Cutting edge technology, which is also part of this, of course, and life science. So, I mean, the focus of this day is all 3, I would say, facilities. We also have the director of Scilab Lab here today, which we are grateful for. There are so many possibilities, actually. There we have Helmut also. So my wish for this day then, Maria, is that there is a lot of collaboration, a lot of discussion using the facilities that we put a lot of money in and a lot of efforts, so we can actually make Sweden and Europe even better.
It's also true that the ecosystem represented here today, it doesn't represent the European average, but rather what we need more of. So just time. So
now that it's time for the ESS and Max 4 Summit, for me, it's a highlight of the year. It's the day where we get together so that we can take stock of what kind of progress are we collectively doing in maintenance. So this year, having the opportunity to be here at GoCo is a great honor, and I think it's great. And as you said, spot on. The top is in biotech is changing the game for diagnosis, for treatment, as well as production. And then research infrastructure, CSS, Max 4, SciLife Lab are immensely valuable and create significant opportunities. But advanced production facilities, access to industry expertise, collaborations, etc. It really does take a village to raise a child, and you, my friends, are the village, right? So at Vinnova, we're really committed to continuing strengthening and draw on the resources of Spatial Omics at SciLife Lab, of CCRM Nordic, of Testa Center, NorthX Biologics, Oligonova. It's going to learn so far about how these types of structures, and I would just like to also say a warm thank you to all of you for initiating them, investing in them, working to, progress our ability to do this. What have we learned now and moving forward? So I'll just conclude. A warm thank you. All of you guys have a really valuable time. You're sharing it and generously offering it to each other. So let's begin.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Here backstage, it's amazing. You will have many successful conferences here. And we are here thanks to two gentlemen who would like to talk a little bit about what GoCo is. We welcome up Zlatko Richter.
So good morning and welcome. So I'm some kind of host today, but I'm a host in a home that we have not yet moved into, which is maybe a little bit different. So Zlatko Richter is my name, CEO at Mölnlycke, and we just got the keys to this building, so we're just about to move in now. And as of January next year, a 2 billion euro company. We are operating in 4 different areas. One is what we call advanced wound care. So that is all those kind of indications that roughly 2% of the population in every country have. Hard-to-heal wounds. It's diabetic foot ulcers, venous leg ulcers. We talk about preventing grapes and all the components. We also have surgical gloves and disinfection products to avoid hospital-acquired infections. So all in all, that is Mölnlycke. And we will have our global R&D center here. Over to Jakob, who will introduce you to this area.
Thank you, Zlatko. And so my name is Jacob Torell, and I'm the founder of GoCo into reality. And just to give you a short background, GoCo is a joint venture between Vectura Fastigheter, which is funded and owned by Patricia Industry and Investor. Today finalized almost 80,000 square meters of building. In 4 years' time, we are today 90 companies working here with 2 very important focus. We have one multi-tenant building where we have room for a very small startup and scale-up and larger companies. We have this beautiful building, which is not an ordinary building. So today we are doing 2 systems, one in life science, GoCo, and the other one in the mobility sector, collaborating with Volvo Cars. And when we are developing areas like this, we start to create a strong vision, a brand that was standing outside Astra, so all companies can grow together. And then we after that, creating a good master plan where we can create life between buildings. We always encourage that people meet. And then we start with our community, which is a very important part, the software. So we have people employed from us that takes care about activate the areas and also try companies to really work together. And this leads to fantastic projects. We have all heard today about CCRM Nord. The next building that we are building now is this building, GoCo Active Lab. Is going to be finalized in the beginning of 2026. And it's a combination building. Time of doing this combination building, it will have everything from a great conference center for meetings, state-of-the-art training facilities, which is really important when you're creating an ecosystem, because everything is about attracting talent. And then trying to achieve, to have these fantastic partners in the ecosystem, from the public sector, the investors, academia, startup and scale up, and also the industry.
I think in general it's like you always want to make 1 + 1 become a little bit more than 2. The way to do that is to put yourself in a context or an environment where there are other players, other talents, and you have a natural connection with them.
We need to attract talents, but we also need to make the young people here want to work within the life science sector. I want to be here, I want to work here, I want to grow here.
If you can create a dynamic environment where you have a number of parties coming together,
allows for collaboration between different fields,
to exchange ideas, but also to reach out with new research and reach the public.
that is something that's essential in developing.
Where we don't know the outcome, we can't form a business case. We have to start from scientific curiosity, from the desire to solve a big.
I think this is an enormous opportunity to consolidate the expertise that sits in companies in Sweden, that sits in the universities in Sweden, and bringing that to work together to a common goal.
A walk so you can experience GoCo.
Excellent. I just wonder about the name. When Tutti Johansson Falk, who is the organizer, the mastermind behind this day, said we were going to GoCo, I thought it was go-kart. Now I was thinking, Veta, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
You. And Zlatko, we'll see you soon again.
Thank you.
Okay, Katarina Bjelke mentioned the new resort message. Do we have the technology?
Dear participants, thank you for inviting me today, and thank you for organizing this conference in Mölndal on a very important theme. I am sorry I could not attend today. I do remember ESS and Max 4 are very impressive facilities for excellent research. They are strategically very important investments for Sweden. I can see fantastic opportunity and the proposed budget for 2025. Research and innovation are crucial for Sweden's competitiveness, prosperity, and ability to tackle societal challenges. The government, our long-term commitment to strengthening the research sector in pursuit of scientific excellence. A strong institutions can compete globally and thrive innovation at home. Later this fall, we will present the Research and Innovation Bill for 2025 to 2028, announcing their work. Sweden is already making significant investments in this field, such as ESS, Max 4, and SciLife Lab, paving the way for future research breakthroughs in renewable energy supplies. I am convinced that it is through groundbreaking research that we can create a foundation to handle future challenges. Creating jobs for meaningful employment. This contributes to our national competitiveness in the international market. The ongoing technological shift. We also need to create better opportunities for basic research to be utilized more quickly, so that we can build strong companies and provide more equitable and efficient healthcare for patients. The government also registries and research databases containing collective personal data are important sources of knowledge and can be extremely powerful tools to unravel the causes of some of our most common diseases, research based on registries and databases. In conclusion, the future of Swedish research and innovation landscape is bright. With our continued investments and strategies of today and unlock the opportunities of tomorrow. Thank you once again for your commitment and for the invaluable contributions you make every day.
Theme today, we do a special focus on life science, and we are going to call up one of the many good panels today. I think I need to be a bit of a choreographer or a scenographer here. Zlatko, welcome up. If you can gather two around each table here, please, welcome. Welcome. I think first we do a rundown. Each one of you.
Ehrenberg. I'm the new director of SciLife Lab, the national infrastructure for the life sciences in Sweden. SciLife Lab was already mentioned a couple of times this morning, and I will say a few more words later.
Later on. Excellent. Zlatko, we know you. Hi again. Hi again. Hanna Bariga, tell us what you do.
Yes, I'm Hanna Bariga, core technology for our lab. They enable us to look on the nanoscale at structures and processes to really understand what's going on and how we can use this information to develop better medicines. And we work...
Not last but not least, Fredrik Westberg, welcome.
Thank you, Maria. So my name is Fredrik Westberg. I'm the CEO of CCRM Nordic. That has already been mentioned here a little bit. So, are establishing both production and process development facilities here at GoCo as we speak, actually. And I will talk a little bit more about this later.
Excellent.
Really the broad picture, and I think there are many aspects of this, but a lot has changed the last 5-10 years. I think we had a kind of the pre-COVID and we had the COVID, and now we are more into the post-COVID situation. I think if I kind of outline 4 major challenges that we see, at least in our kind of daily life. I experienced that in my previous 25 years in medtech. We also see a kind of a polarization out there. We see EU/UK, if we still see them as part of EU, despite Brexit, as kind of one, have to be present locally. Usually it's production or R&D or something at least. So we moved away from kind of a global strategy to very much a local or regional strategy the last few years. So that's a big change for us, how we establish production, etc. So right now we are constructing or building production units in, you're excluded, or you get a very much of a niche position. So that's kind of the reality out there. You can like it or not, but that's how it looks like. I think
which governments are driving this? You mentioned China, Saudi Arabia.
India. I think US is coming there step by step. Depends a little bit how the election goes. But it's a clear trend, you know. And
are they happy with you just putting production there, or do they want higher up the value chain, like innovation?
I think it's step by step, and it's also production. I mean, in our role could be 6-7 steps from raw material until sterilization and delivery to customers. So it's different part of the value chain. But inauguration or the starting point of that.
So there are lots of gravitational fields right now in the world to pull out innovation, production to local facilities. Okay, but you are here in Gothenburg.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, we are here in Gothenburg, is that we have our global HQ in Gothenburg, and we are an innovative company. I mean, we strive to develop and innovate products and solutions in those areas where we operate. And to be able to do that, you need to have the best talents. And if you look at our competition, I mean, they're based in US, in Boston, for example, in UK, in Cambridge. And people move here, but it's not so easy to get people from London, New York, and Boston to move to Gothenburg. So at the end of the day, we stand and fall with academia here in Gothenburg. It's Chalmers, Gothenburg University, Sahlgrenska, because that's where we will see 70, 80, our global competition.
And do you feel that the Gothenburg University and Chalmers are meeting your demands for good engineers, good scientists?
I would say so. I mean, we're still alive, which is to have in Shanghai or Boston. We will not compete in the future.
So you are kind of living and breathing the Draghi report reality.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, I mean, we have Europe. 98 are in Asia Pacific and US.
Yeah,
and the two are Spotify and Dutch chips, which I forgot the name about right now.
And Spotify doesn't create any jobs, which is problem. I mean, it's a high value but low job kind of company. Okay, so this is a little...
Zlatko, that it's so important that we actually have this really strong academia in Sweden and also a hospital sector. And to be honest, definitely we need to have and we need to attract international competence that we don't have.
Mm. So we have the challenges on the sort of macro level, but then we also have the scientific challenges, which pose a lot of interesting opportunities. Last year, a Nobel Prize this year for a little cousin, the microRNA. What do we need to learn about mRNA right now, and why is this such an interesting molecule to study?
Yeah, so I think from our perspective, mRNA has provided a technology within the body. We can sort of redesign it. One of the challenges with it is it's very hard to deliver, for it to end up in the right place in the body at the right time and actually do any form of delivery. And this is really what we're interested in. What can we learn about these processes of academia for industry? I think it's important to recognize the other way, the importance of industry for academia, and how really working together we can look at some of these global challenges. And for us, we're interested in understanding
a pathway, so to say, in the cell.
So from our perspective, one of the only ways that we can look on the nanoscale at the really tiny level at these processes, the delivery technology and how it works is using X-rays and neutrons. So it allows of the structure. How have we changed the structure? What is happening dynamically in this process? And ultimately, what we're interested in is how does this impact performance? So we really want to use this
time in science. And you wanted to show some slides.
I can, if people are interested,
yes,
a bit of a teaser about the life science revolution at the moment.
I think we have some slides here. We talked to our master
of international talent attraction. I think that is certainly something for research community we also absolutely need. And I think what helps is that we have international visibility for Sweden. But before I talk about that, how we achieve that, I think it's maybe to this audience at the moment. And SciLife Lab serves the entire life science community in the country. And see, we get this from all our users, from the 4,000 projects every year that we support. And what has changed is really that we have rapidly now from inventorizing living systems in terms of all the components to mapping them out in space and time. How do these molecules work in space and time? And here again, the technology is provided by the infrastructures together of living systems. And that's happening at the moment when we have a parallel revolution in computer science, that artificial intelligence is coming online and is scalable to deal with the complexity of this data and to use it to predict how living systems might function. And we can predict that molecularly, and as Hannah illustrated, for science-driven, and we can engineer living systems. Now imagine that future where you can use a computer to predict how something works, and you can have an engineering approach to change
wounds, for example. You never want to have a hard-to-heal wound, so prevention is extremely important. And to predict, and avoid wounds is a very big cost saving for the society and a life of quality matter for the patient at the end of the day. So I think this is one area that we really try to work with, predicting and avoiding prevention.
So it means you are
internationally and will likely recruit more in the future. So maybe I can say a few more words
please, you're welcome. I just got curious, so please.
Yeah, because I think this is an infrastructure. And so we need, on the one hand, the life science infrastructure, and that's what SciLife Lab really is. It's a young organization. It enables life science across institutions, across disciplines, mission acting not just with the academic research, but with research in healthcare and in industry, which is very prominent here today. And we are networked with our sister infrastructures here in Lund in Sweden, present here today in Gothenburg, with Max4 and ESS to present them to the capabilities of the infrastructures will be really key in the future. And if you allow me, I will have one teaser of what that might mean in the future. I'm apologizing for Owen, the synchrotron in Germany, but the technology can be used here. This is a beamline of the European infrastructure I come from, EMBL, that is using X-ray radiation to look at disease and to look at human tissue. Here, what you are seeing, the movie, you can now see everything outside in the mosquito, but the resolution of this data is subcellular. So you can automatically, driven by AI, segment the different parts of the mosquito, and you can seamlessly zoom in with the mosquito to become infectious. So that's what infrastructure can do for life science. You could never see any of that before X-ray imaging came online. And so it's...
So we have these fantastic, we have the photon, we have the neutron, high energy physics, we have a more predictive computer-based.
It's definitely more personalized, and that's the broader picture.
And what do we mean by that exactly?
So more that you actually look at what an individual patient actually need, and how can you actually direct.
Where doctors have to go months of, maybe one of you has suffered from it or a relative, you have to go through months of trying out what could work. And a third of the patients you can never even treat. So it's...
Approach also, a lot of research historically has been made on men. And
it's because women have cycles, you see, they're problematic.
So, but I think that's a key thing that everybody is basically focusing on now, to get more personalized. Then if of course I'm a little bit biased here, focusing kind of build up new tissue, and that's science fiction.
Wounds? Wounds? Yes. Could you build up skin tissue again?
Definitely.
Zlatko is interested.
That's part, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, there you have collaboration.
Person or this disease, and really what X-rays and neutrons might help us to do is really drive this understanding. And so through this sort of, we need to develop the technology to understand what we need to make for a specific use case. So some of the sort of opportunities there around sort of driving the collaboration and technology within Sweden. So
we can attract even more, but I think we also need to work on the use and accessibility in the community, because I think that is something not every life scientist is aware of, and identifying what are the big questions ahead and how can we provide jointly the right services so that this also is easy for the community to use, I think is a work to do for the future from my...
We will have an entire series being made to being actual products that Zlatko can sell in Saudi Arabia, for instance. How do we, because that's going to be ultimately what creates a better Draghi report the next time. Fredrik, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I can just mention one thing there, and that's basically why we do the patients in the end, and that's why infrastructure can play a big role there, and that's now we focus on a niche part, and that's cell and gene therapy and advanced therapies. But
at the facilities, but there will also be users who really just are interested in the scientific gains or understanding from these facilities. And actually we kind of need to cater for all of this across academia and industry, that we have the sort of people who want...
Part of this is that I think what we've changed the last few years also is that I think one of the key kind of activities and tasks that we have as a company is truly to understand, the patients and healthcare systems needs. Soon, working with R&D, they need to be skilled to be out screening, finding partnerships, collaborations, etc., around the world, basically, to find the best technologies, match this kind of customer need or patient need that you've discovered. We are niched in people out there in the world, and there might be a small chance that somebody outside our house has come up with some good stuff.
So a question for you then is, the markets you are in, are the healthcare systems ready to pay for innovation? They are willing to pay for innovation in the cancer area, maybe heart disease, but CNS has been like a lower cost has been station, because it's going to ultimately be decisive.
Yeah, and I think, the world has gone, and I'll kind of answer it, not directly but indirectly. I think if you look at what's happening out there right now is that to the home...
Do you recognize this? Do you have a relative who's been driven home basically after the operation? Hand up. Yeah. We know what it looks like.
Yeah, that you save that much. Not everywhere, but in many markets. I think we talked about prevention before. I mean, we and other companies have solutions to prevent wounds. In some markets, like in US, where you have as a hospital, you can pay a fine if you have a hospital, a kind of the holistic end-to-end part of the treatment.
Yeah, I can just add there, if we look at more the future medicines and the more advanced medicines that we're working on, they are super expensive today. And of course, what we need to do is, it is a massive challenge with the health economics, but we need to change the view there and look at have a longer perspective. The money, but will actually cure your disease. Of course, that will change the game completely. But we need to work here definitely.
Our two scientists here, what are you thinking of the
techniques that we work with? There's still a sort of technological development needed for us to be able to sort of, for example, take a sample from a medical provider, do an analysis with groundwork. We remove some of the bottlenecks, for example, with data analysis, and we say, well, where would we like to go? And then how are we going to get there? And I think they kind of, will go hand in hand.
Is there an argument to be made that
beginning of the revolution of rational deployment of scientific methods in healthcare that has happened in genomics, large scale in terms of genome sequencing, that is now a routine healthcare provided new to the business end of what actually happens in organisms, which is mostly protein metabolite level. These technologies are there now, but they're not used clinically yet. But that transition and that translation strategically.
So a final comment from each one. What are you seeing within the next 5-10 years in your field that you think is really interesting? Who wants to start? Fredrik?
Oh, it's so much. I actually thought about I thought about one thing that I think is beginning, so that it actually can be a product in the end. I think it's a lot of products or projects aim to be first in man very quickly, and then kind of then it's really tricky to actually take it to the next level and scale that up.
Seeing, what are you thinking? You are using the facilities already, you told me.
Yeah, so I think for me, one of the big excitements is that there's a lot of software development, technological development, and integration across different platforms. And for me, that's the really exciting part, start to provide rational engineering, actually.
Rational engineering. Has engineering been irrational before, or?
I think not, but it's not easy on the nanoscale. So we can engineer the
historical opportunity for moving forward and for addressing health and environmental issues in a qualitatively new way. These are things we cannot do in the cloud. Our health, the environment we live in, is the physical reality. We have to deal with that in practice, and I think this is a global opportunity, and I hope that in the next 5 years, Sweden can become a leading nation.
Before you were contacted about this day, did you know about ESS and MAX4? Have you heard about it?
Very much, since I'm from Lund. So
you are from Lund. Oh.
I lived 25 years just next to it, so I see it being
you know all of
more, and I hear that more and more when I'm out in the world, and that's kind of sustainable healthcare. And it's basically two components of that. One is around circularity, the CO2 decrease, bio-based material and all that, because I think if you take healthcare, if that would be a country with the 5th largest right now, they're leaving. They don't want to work there anymore because it's not sustainable. And no matter what we do in research and everything else, if we don't have people that want to work in healthcare, we will have major issues.
They're leaving.
They had pre-COVID, they worked like hell. Then COVID came, they had to work even harder. And then they thought, now we can relax. And then they said no vacation because now you have to take care of the backlog post-COVID. And if you ask people to work 24/7 for 5 years, there is a risk that they might think one day that, well, I might be Florence Nightingale, but at the end of the day, I also have to survive. And that's what we see all the time. So that is also a reality that we need to take care of.
Yeah. So you can have the best products in the world, but if there are no nurses to administer,
it's hard.
It's very, very hard. Okay, I think we should give this excellent panel a really warm round of applause. MAX4, the big science facility using electromagnetic radiation generated when particles at enormous speed are forced to travel in a circle. Synchrotron light. Olof Karis is the director, and here to give us a quick...
We were starting with a movie, right?
We see imaging coming up at several different beamlines. We do see medical experiments at 4max and downmax and Softimax and Nanomax. So there is a lot of stuff going on. The new technology, we can actually go towards movies.
Maybe I should take the opportunity to say that this is a fantastic place to work in. That the beam has a fantastic quality. It's very stable and it has a small focus. We are working on a donor. The focus of our study here at Max 4 was to study the structure of cardiac muscle in a very special situation called the stone heart. When the heart is exposed for shrinkage at the contractile filament level, and we could measure that by using two very strong scattering reflections.
Uniburns that are grouped in two enzyme blends. One of them was able to convert the group B canonical antigen, but additionally an extended structure which has been recently discovered by the group of these enzymes together enabled us for the very first time to identify the extended structures as important antigens that define the phenotype blood. So these fantastic crystal structures that we have obtained were generated at Biomax, and the quality and the resolution of the structures in different states and bound ligands enabled us.
Point to actually look a little bit at the background of this picture. You are looking at ESS in the front of the picture and Max 4 within 500 meters. This is a best connected world-class facilities that you find anywhere. So there are very few places where you can travel from basically anywhere in the world and get to these absolutely astonishing facilities within an hour. Sweden has to fix, because we are now having the two best facilities, or some of the best facilities in the world, that will offer so fantastic opportunities. Sweden to fill that with the usable contents for all of us. So I'm not here to talk about what is known as Science Village. I'm here to talk about Max 4. Max 4 is the first fourth generation machine on how to develop these fantastic facilities. So what does it mean that to have a fourth generation machine? Why is that relevant for life science? It changes the light is very, very different today than it was earlier. And John showed images that were not able to do with the very, very competitive imaging facility for life science in Sweden. So with these new imaging capacities, we can really do things like the Brain Connectome, which is a big project now within the EU, where Max 4 is also at the fourth generation machine, because these are really the enablers that allows us to do this type of science. Max 4, I think, is already fairly well connected in the community. We through him continue this. I think there is certainly a good reason to try to ensure that we can work together also in the future in a similar spirit like InfraLife. This today admits about close to 2,000 individual users. We have accumulated 2023 about 650 publications. We expect to increase. We're picking up quite well. Life science has been a part of Max 4 since the very start, the first experiment, 2017. First industrial user in the life science sector were at Max 4 20. The beam time we sell is from pharma. So Max 4, I think, in terms of throughput, is a very unique facility. If you go to Biomax, you can screen almost somewhere between 20 and 25 structured models that are really developed jointly with industry. So today, you can actually just request, you can mail in your sample, you can request data to be taken. Okay, so I think coming back a little bit towards the imaging aspect and also more techniques, we are seeing that the life science sector today is developing, adapted to accommodate life science users. But still, because of the scientific potential at these fourth generation machines. We're seeing a lot of life science experiments coming in and using the facilities. So Animal House will be a unique feature, and hopefully we can also offer, of course with limited resolution, but in vivo imaging, where the fact that... Okay.
Sounds promising. What about humans?
I don't think we want to put humans into the beamline, no. At least...
Group, and you have many industrial collaborations, you have research, etc. around you. What has been key drivers in this success, do you think?
I think that is screen more than 10,000 protein structures within a year. If you try to do that with other techniques, there is no alternative. On the other hand, I think if you look at the new techniques and so on. So I think, to give you a simple answer, it's not so easy. It's ultimately dependent on which sector you come from.
And what technological benefit you can provide to the sector. Yeah. That's an excellent opportunity. Thank you very much, and congratulations on all the success. And now we will do a favorite activity, Swedish activity, drink coffee. You will have 45 minutes, and thank you. So let's see if we have sound. We have sound. And there we have sound. I'd invite you all, welcome back to your tables. We started off talking nervously, waiting at the table. We have Erik Lindahl, Professor of Biophysics, Stockholm University, Mariana Jannes Arteta, who works with drug delivery at AstraZeneca, Federica Sabastini.
I was a theoretician, even physicist, and then I've had a long, complicated journey over membrane proteins, ending up in the lab doing structural biology nowadays, and somehow we're back in the middle of everything with artificial.
Corrects with what we discussed early in this morning, but I also have a background in using large-scale facilities during my PhD at Lund University.
Federica?
My name is Federica Sebastiani, and I am a assistant professor at the University user of those facilities, and I try to use them to understand better drug delivery systems.
Yes, and hi, my name is Chris Schlenk. I lead WellSpect Healthcare, which is just across the way. It's a subsidiary of Dentsply Sirona, of somebody's life. And I am a new Swede. I moved to Gothenburg with my family in January.
So we heard before, Zlatko said nobody wants to move to Gothenburg. So what attracts are complex areas, and they're also highly stigmatizing for the patients. And I guess in terms of material development is very, very important to you.
Surfaces for clinical benefit. So we have many partnerships with academia, one of which is with Chalmers University, for instance, where we're researching graphene or nanostructured graphene for application in antimicrobial surfaces for our catheters to prevent infection after long-term use.
So what are the problems that patients are facing right now with
their urinary functions? So if they have to catheterize themselves multiple times a day for the rest of their lives, there's urethral trauma, and it's a breeding ground for bacteria. So to the extent that we can bring to bear solutions that are antimicrobial and can help prevent infection,
because you've got organic, inorganic material. Do you sort of measure how the bacteria climb on the matter, or?
I suppose that's one way to look at it. I think there are known substances that are not conducive for bacteria.
Starve them. Sounds like a good idea.
Yes.
Okay, Erik Lindahl, you talked about your background. You're a physicist, you went into biology, and after I had talked to you, I was thinking, I'm a biologist, I'm a geneticist.
Finally become a descriptive and quantitative science in particular, right? Rather than being a phenomenological science, it's more alive than ever. And
it's more alive than ever because you can quantify things.
Exactly, it's gone from phenomenology.
And one of the people I've had the privilege of bouncing ideas off with has been a nanophysicist. That it's interesting. So this merger of physics and biology.
It's really about biology on the one hand, life science, medicine, and on the one hand, information sciences. What we can do, AI is a buzzword, but judging this year's Nobel Prize and everything, once we learn to quantify things, once we learn to put tokens, words, once we develop this language.
But I would like to go back to the pharmaceutical industry. Mariana, you working with early clinical trials, how does working with the big science facilities fit into
that they're safe, that they work as they are. What happens is the classical pharmaceutic was built on small molecules, and we are now moving how they look in our product, how will they look when they go inside the body, so we can make better, faster, more efficacious and safe systems, because the new life science problems are much more complex.
How can understanding structure help us understand function even better? How do you see the two interconnected?
Well, I think it's a little bit connected to what Anna was talking about very carefully before they get into the body. So the structure, it's kind of easy to understand at that step. But we still miss the link between the structure before going into the body and when easy is going toward the target. We can add on the performance in the end.
In the end, yeah.
Yeah.
Is there like a qualitative or a quantitative difference between how pharmaceutical companies on one hand and the med tech companies?
Product development hat, but I mean protein crystallography is one of the main applications, and we use MAX4 and other facilities in Europe quite frequently. Inside the medchem area with other companies like sustainable materials. So I think we need to understand what is a scientific question. One of the things that I really like about what...
Erik, when we talked about this beforehand, you said it's interesting when we study organic and non-organic matter, because the non-organic matter is more different. It's more
the challenge, of course, you can't learn about gold from silver, because gold did not evolve from silver. And the beauty in biology, we can't cheat this way, that proteins have evolved from other proteins, have evolved from other proteins. So by frequently, many of the things are
theoretical. How are you thinking this will be applied? The collaboration you do already now is with Chalmers?
Yes.
Yeah.
One of them, yeah.
And one of them. And what is the specific scientific or technological question that you have posed to them that you want to have solved? Is it only the bacterial interference with the catheter, or it's
segment of the industry? The holy grail is finding products that have characteristics that don't allow for that bacteria to grow.
Yeah.
So it seems like a relatively, it's easy to do on a kitchen surface with chemicals, but something that interfaces with your biology several times a day, it's very...
Before we are all antibiotic resistant, or?
Yes, many things have to be solved before we're all antibiotic resistant. This is no different. So for our target population of people that we serve, but because of their current state, potentially fatal for them.
If you do these breakthroughs, let's say you find composite material, graphene, which is more averse to bacteria, so to say, will your clients...
Similar to a pharmaceutical, it's reimbursed at the patient level through government tenders. So we've been able to show that innovation is rewarded in the chronic care medical device space when you can prove clinically that...
Or innovative product.
Yes, but there's many reasons why. The U.S. healthcare system has started in the last number of years to pay for outcomes, and it's a slow process, but hospital-acquired infections and long-term
opinion about this is healthcare systems, are they willing to pay for innovation? That's the balance you have to strike.
Yeah, I think, of course, we are a bit of in a privileged position because as a company, we're a global company that we strive to develop innovative medicines. I mean, we're not focused on one model. That's very interesting because how do we treat a population which is so difficult to find as well? And it's also to find the root cause. It's almost sometimes as finding a needle in a haystack. You know, it's to try to understand more about the genome and to try to develop those very close to GoCo, but also in operations in our manufacturing facilities just in the south of Stockholm, in Södertälje.
We started talking about AI as a way of interpreting data and start looking at things. So how can AI, because you're working with this, 1 day to perform it and 3 years to interpret?
Yes, and that's how we've historically done it, right? And there are so many cases. Even this year's Nobel Prize for Chemistry is the culmination of 50 years of work of collecting protein structures. But it takes... That's not going to happen. But the interesting is the next small steps. When will the computers... We will start using computers as cognitive companions. The computer might actually... Oh, there is an interesting pattern here in the data. Maybe you should try this material too. And that might be wrong, but...
Albert Einstein said, I'm not more intelligent than others. I just stick with problems longer.
Yes, and the computers are able to work 176 hours per week on them.
Yeah. So could you elaborate on what type of patterns could we imagine that AI could detect that would take so much work from humans that we kind of miss it? Could you give some examples?
So no, again, and that's because they're close in space, and that means that they influence others through evolution. But it's exceptionally weak patterns, and you have to dig through 500 billion sequences to find this, right? The computers can do that, but there is no way a human ever could.
What are you thinking?
Accessible to AI, because for protein crystallography, there is a very well-constructed database, and everybody adds the same metadata, etc., all the information, while for...
Words can be anything. And the scientific, we need to develop these words in different domains. In neutron scattering, what are the words? I don't really know. But once we crack those words, we will be able to start applying models like that.
Yeah, sure.
How are you working with the data today? How are you interpreting the big data that you collect? What are the methods you are...
It's a very difficult knowledge to transfer as well. So, of course, it would be helpful to have a more systematic way of doing that. So, yeah, there is a lot of room for improvement on the data analysis. And I guess this would lead the techniques, because, yeah, the data analysis, I mean, what you said, the 3 months, 1 day, 3 years is true. And in the 3 years, if you don't stick with it, you will lose all the work you've done so far.
Sorry. Chris, how does this sound to you? 3 months to prepare?
Our clinical trials tend to not be as extensive, just the difference between medtech and pharmaceuticals. However, all of this resonates. I would say AI plays an important role for us when we to the system and then find things that we weren't looking for to create the next study. So it allows us to iterate and...
Are you using it already?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
For especially what, evaluation of clinical trials, or?
Correct.
Correct.
And then the next step in this is population health. So maybe even get in front of some future complications they can have from the treatment.
Marianna, what are you thinking? How are you getting your data? How are you analyzing it? Are you using AI, and to what extent? How are you seeing?
And actually focus on the specific questions as well.
Which areas are you in? What specific stages before to drug discovery up to phase 3? Where is it especially helpful, would you say?
Oh, I would say multiple, all of them. I will say in the early discovery, when you're screening compounds, we have a lot of what we call, if we're going to develop better products, we need to understand the data, and we cannot have 3 years to understand how this product could be better. So we actually also partner with other companies. I know Vinnova has a program right now on AI sacs, for example, led by Tetra Pak. And that's an initiative in Sweden to try to get that data
of AI, or maybe we cannot even envision them. But will we have machines that know more about the human body than we do ourselves?
Something tells me you don't know your entire genome, so there are already...
And I've said no, because it's not actionable, but we're already doing that, yeah.
I'm not so worried about that, actually. That the part that worries me is that we need to... Things are moving very fast in the world. And I think for many years, those of us in science, we were under this, well, it's only the industrial part. Lack of knowledge, I can never see lack of knowledge as an alternative to knowledge. There will be knowledge that we need to learn how to handle. There are ethical concerns that we need to do research in. But again, lack of knowledge will never be better.
Okay, and the apple was eaten. I mean, what is, what will this mean for us? If your genome is out in the world being discussed by science, you have no idea about it. Are you comfortable with that? You have a hand up. Are you comfortable with your genome floating around in a database, Google database, being discussed, used, sold, traded? Who is comfortable with that? 4 wobbly hands, 5. It depends, yeah. But I mean, we do have some ethical
to connect the data to a patient.
The anonymized is one way, yes.
Exactly. So I mean, the way to use this data in intelligent ways to, I mean, you use it to maybe to generate better clinical trials, to be able to measure the outcome, that you have as much data to understand both that it works, but that it's safe. So I think from the ethical consideration, as long as it's separated to the person, is more just the outcome of the...
Surgeon is skilled. He's been to KR Gothenburg for 20 years. But on average, the robot is better. But one time in 1,000, the robot will do something completely crazy and kill the patient on the table. But on average, it's better. Whom would you like to be operated by?
The one I can sue.
Yeah, but as a scientist, right, that's stupid.
Yeah, who would want to be operated by their robot? It's not. What would you choose yourself?
I think the robot, but I'm not certain. I'm a bit irrational.
But it's interesting this because I was at Chalmers yesterday and we had a discussion around. You agree with this, Fredrika?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's very relevant to be sure that all this data, especially when it comes to clinical trials, are not possible to connect to people. And yeah, it's
that reviews our processes and how we consider testing any of our research and development solutions. But yeah, keeping it top of mind is critical. I agree about the rails in place before the governments figure out the regulation. We can make some missteps.
Yeah, because it has been pretty unregulated. That's the thing, and it's grown so quickly. I read about a big meeting in Silicon Valley with now who have gone now from the Democrats to the Republicans. Looking forward, we are now here to talk about the two facilities. We've talked about processing capacity of the data coming out. What are you seeing in your fields that connect to these facilities and how they can be used? And when will we get there roundly? What are you next 5 years? Next?
I would say long term, which in AI means 3 to 5 years.
And we will get there.
Yes.
Yeah. And you are working to develop such tools.
Oh yes, we're working. We're on it.
You're on it.
Max 4 is active and it's really, we're close. I mean, the facility is now will be the challenge for ESS to be able to interact and do the same with the neutrons, so how to, teach the scientists, not only
You're seeing that.
Oh, this is an interesting question. I guess, we're in Sweden, and Sweden is very 50-50. I think it's like if you go on a date, you expect everything to be 50-50. I think you will be here.
You split the bill. Yeah.
You split the bill. I think it will be the.
Yeah, I'm just echoing what they said. I think there is a lot of room for improvement to speed up, and it would be great to be able to, get the final outcome a bit quicker. But as well, I think people that actually know how to judge if the outcome is correct or not.
Be like computer inspectors or computer evaluators or?
Well, kind of making an informed decision.
When we look at R&D, we've really determined that the research component of R&D is best suited in academia or government-funded facilities, and that we can take it from there, from the applied technology, and then commercialize it.
Little science Tinder here in the group, you send out a little request for dream partner.
Yeah, we've talked disproportionately today about antibacterial surfaces, but I could really have a whole list of technologies and unmet needs in our space about what would benefit the people that use our products every day, both from, it could be its own seminar within itself.
Yeah, so when you work, do you like scientists from academia coming to you with ideas, or are you more kind of on a quest to find them? How does it usually work?
I'd much prefer the former. I don't think it looks like our problem statement to trusted partners, and that's a limited group today. In our industry, investigator-sponsored studies are very helpful in taking currently commercialized products and helping us understand and how to market them differently or innovate to the next level.
A space where ideas that scientists have can be studied by companies if something would fit with what they're doing, like a science Tinder kind of thing. Dating, is there such a place? AIM Day, okay. Okay, cool. There you have more ideas. You know all about this. Maybe you're running this program. So
I can just encourage, I think. Many years ago when I was a postdoc.
That's the higher degree than the robot operating the human, yeah. So, excellent. I think we should thank this learned and interesting panel with a warm round of applause.
In the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, science stepped up in an unprecedented way. Researchers worldwide worked tirelessly to understand the virus and develop effective vaccines. Neutron science has been instrumental in understanding interactions at the When completed, this cutting-edge infrastructure will use neutrons to probe the very building blocks of matter, providing unprecedented details. Neutrons, with their ability to penetrate deep into materials without destroying them, are ideal for studying delicate materials.
Science. ESS, in a steady-state operation, will deliver the highest flux of neutrons as well as scientific infrastructure and allow new discoveries and information critical to
support their research. With the European Spallation Source, neutron science is stepping up its game, offering new capabilities that will shape the future of life sciences and beyond.
Complex operation. Could you describe some complexities in getting this thing on the ground in Lund? What's involved?
Well, I think the ESS is a European project that is the first entrance point, I think, Europe that we are talking about. And also from this point of view, we pool an enormous amount of technology from all over Europe. And they said, this is the place, the best place in the world where you can do this kind of science. And that's actually where the ESS comes in, right? Our aim is really to make sure that also for the next 50 years, this leadership stays in Europe. But the
these labs have contributed knowledge and technology in kind to ESS, so it's an enormous organizational challenge just making it happen.
It is a challenge, but it's also a huge opportunity. You were talking about AI and Europe not being at the front. We should not forget the problems, for example, we were facing in the project were often wells, and it struggled enormously in Europe. So also coming back to what was said this morning, it's not a surprise that comes over the last 5 years and not via the Draghi report that we are losing competitive. When we will deal with the data, we have to have a turnaround that is faster from the experiment to the output, because the challenge is out there globally. We are measured with respect to competitors in Japan, in the United States. Competitiveness, and when we discussed, this is terrible word in German, right? Alleinstellungsmerkmal. But it's like
very long word, Helmut.
Dolly Parton said, what does she have that I don't have?
Yeah, the USP, the unique selling point.
The unique selling point, exactly. And I think these facilities that we have here must...
What are we seeing here, Helmut?
Well, what you are seeing here, we have a long accelerator, 600 meters. This is this tunnel. You see only now a green lawn to hide it in the landscape, in the Skåne landscape. This is input power. So we produce a proton beam. It's shooting at a target wheel. Why are neutrons so expensive? Neutrons are everywhere. I carry 40 kilograms of neutrons with me. Then you can calculate my body weight if you like. But they like to be with protons, so we have to, and this is the process, the fusion. And then in there, and I won't go into the details, the neutrons are boiling off the tungsten atoms. They are sent to the instruments that you find in the guide halls, which are these fans that you see next to the central building. And there we do a very simple thing. We just measure for most of the part where our windmill, your spin structure for your quantum system, that may help you to do some quantum computing in the future and so on. So in principle, very simple.
Very simple and very expensive.
And very expensive.
This is the most expensive thing in Sweden.
Well, for Sweden, I don't want to calculate it at the moment because the head of the council is here, and we know that we have still discussions on how we share the operational costs. But I can tell you that for a facility that you create with having something like that in your region and developing therefore the academic and industrial ecosystem.
So there is like 1 to 4 at ILL, but...
Yes, a lot of return, but also a lot of responsibility for the host state to have.
So it's up to Sweden to make sure that this 1 to 3 or 1 to 4 or whatever it is, return on investment is being created.
To us all to make sure that we get, first of all, for 40 years, outstanding, impactful science out of that facility.
Yeah.
And then naturally, yes, that's then really up to Sweden to do that.
No,
so it's a more complicated story than just a simple number.
Sure. We talked about the Draghi report. You mentioned it, especially in terms of measuring productivity, whereas the big problems were in France, Spain, Italy. But you are bringing together this north-south.
UK, France and Germany, but we also have the eastern countries, the Czech Republic, Hungary, Poland, Estonia. So I think we are absolutely doing this job. Diversity is a plus, but naturally a centralized competitor, if you like the United States, where you can give that to a federal agency like the Department of Energy labs, has also advantages. In Nielsen said this morning, these 3 pillars, right? The science, but also the technology that goes with it, and to make sure that in Europe in the future we are always capable of building facilities like that because we master, right? So you can imagine that it's good if you have a machine that can work 176 hours per week and continuously tune these parameters to the last per mil.
Final question, timeline.
Well, the timeline is that we have made a very strong commitment. We want to hand over. There's a lot for the user experience to make it successful, from the smile of the person they meet in the tram, to the reception, to the chemistry labs, to the computer support they get, the experiments that work, the sample environment, the data treatment, and so on. We have to build that and power 5 megawatts and so on. So timeline, very clear, 28, we have to deliver, but this is not the end of the story. It's just the beginning of the next race.
Okay, now I need Tutti, some help. When we convene at 1 o'clock for workshop here in this room, so in 45 minutes we convene here, and the workshop will be around the tables where we So, welcome back. Welcome back. Please take a seat at your tables. Tankar som har kommit. Nu ska vi se om Menti kan leverera. Har ni varit inne och tittat på kontrollrummet här? Riktigt medierum. Sorry? Okay, you need to submit your ideas. Yes, please submit your ideas. Gränsyta, bigger ecosystem, helping us save the world. Very large ambition. Who said that? Okay.
Sort of. A lot of wars and stuff. And that we need to do together.
So you will have Helmut and Kalle here as peace negotiators.
No. I think all of us needs to do to help them.
Okay, cool. Who said this? Anonymous sender. Education for future use.
ESS and Max 4. So we need to understand what kind of answers can we get from there. I think we were, new use is what we're trying to learn. What can we exploit these facilities?
Do you feel you still need help in terms of sharpening?
To get, new ways of measuring that will actually answer what this complex material or systems are telling us.
Let's see what else we have. Let's do drug formulation.
Data has to be anonymous just this morning.
Right? Yeah. Okay. Okay. I think we go to the next one. What should the facilities provide to be relevant for you?
But a lot of industry don't know what they can get out of it. So it should be an easier access. It should be a bit cheaper access to begin with, at least, so that they can test and try. And in the future, when they know the value, they should be able to pay.
So you want like an initial price reduction as a kind of facilities from industry?
We're already too cheap. Really, we are much too cheap.
Compared to what?
Compared to what it actually is worth.
So who is setting the price? Because this is not like a
total number of hours we provide. And we don't take into account investments. We don't take into account that it's very different between different experiments and so on. So we end up at a price tag which is
round.
Can you say that again?
Well, if you divide your operating cost with the amount of users. So if you have 100 users, it's one price. But if you only have 1 user per hour, is that a reasonable entry fee?
Well, first I would say that you say it's cheap for the value, but not all sectors in industry know the value before they have tested. And the way we translate the full experiment is not exactly per hour, like people to do the experiment, to do the analysis, let's say for a successful experiment, that's a price kind of where it lands for industry. Do they actually directly see that value before they have tested? So it's
club owner. Is this a good comparison? Helmut, can you have some free introductory sessions?
Well, I think this is happening all the time, right? From my experience, when we did that at the ILL, dominating part is not the fee for the experiment, right? And you will have to do the rest of the work in any case. So where the trolley now goes down way below the cost of a New York lawyer, something that was mentioned this morning, and why probably the best way to start that is through academia, through the universities, to do these pilots in this, because then basically what's happened is that we are, or somebody else is exact, but there is ways to do it.
But couldn't you offer like a free session, Christmas night, you know? Yeah, okay. Could we have...
Most of the use is free. The paid use is a very small amount, and you're getting that because you're either getting a specific service or you're leapfrogging the queue. You're going above everybody else. So that's what you're paying for, right? Industry, just come and use us, just come and use us, do experiments. And they've been doing that for 10 years. There is almost no visible output because the industry can try something for free and it doesn't work. It doesn't matter, I didn't pay for it, it didn't cost me anything. Don't do that. Industries can apply to facilities as an industry. You don't have to be academic, but you go through the same system as academic partners. Yeah.
Understand. Charlie? Hang on.
I think action of cost that we infer by charging 800 euro per hour is virtually nothing. I stand by that. It should be 10 times more expensive. Sorry.
By some of the cost. It's also something that's delaying doing the science, that people in industry want to get on and do something, and so they want an access method that...
So what you're saying is that the free access comes with a flip side, which is the long application process, etc. Is that what you mean?
That's for everybody.
And that's for everybody. Okay.
Coming in on a shorter notice to test whatever is possible first, and then you can send in a full application later.
Okay.
Thank you, Niklas.
Okay, I think Shirin, you need to, because you raised this issue, are you getting the answers that you want, so to say?
Yes and no. As you said, exactly every instrument at each facility, that is one thing. And in general, if that is easier when they can see the full demo case, then maybe that would promote more industrial user. But the second thing is basically, and that makes it really hard for us to compete with academic access. So it should be a little bit of a different priority when it comes to industrial access, even for the free academic use. So for us...
...to access. Who supports Shirin? At her table. The table stands up. Couple of women. You have female solidarity here. Also, gentlemen, some more, yeah. For neutrons. You pulled your hand up for both. Okay, because?
Because you said it was too complicated and costly, and it's the combination that makes it's the complication together with the cost. Access via competence centres and class universities. So it's another model within the Swedish system to get access.
Okay, we have many voices here from KTH. What are you thinking?
I guess it feels like there's a couple, and that was enough funding for one beam time, maybe two, if you were lucky. But what are the next steps? So are there ways to support these kinds of experiments? It's not necessarily for the facilities or the infrastructures to solve these individual questions, like what can the Swedish community do, or the funding bodies, in collaboration with universities. There could be consortia, for example, between industry and academia to try and look at some of these things.
Is the discussion settled? Will we have some severe foundation aspect? Who talked about this? We have talked about it extensively in the morning. Stations for data evaluation, You said that, okay. I will leap backwards here.
Often I log in from outside to the facilities and do
a lot of reconstruction afterwards, but it could be really time-consuming, and in a way you often get second priority in the list of the work in the cluster and so on. So sometimes I think it would be nice to just have a cluster continue the evaluation of the data.
That should be easy to fix, Charlie and Helmut. Somewhere to sit and process your data. Hang on, Helmut, you're planning right now. You can build a room for this.
Well, we did it. This is integral part of the DMSC, and we very often we even have those data scientists, right? That
access another time. We had that. Easy access, again, the access thing, practically accessible. I mean, it comes again and again, which is interesting. Okay, yeah. Anonymous person? Yeah, okay. Let's look at the next question. Is this the next? Yes. What do you lack to be able to conduct research or R&D at large-scale research facilities? Who's talked about this? Pia lacked competence, yeah?
No, it was hard when it comes to be able to use this kind of facilities.
We also have another cost question. Travel grants for CE.
No, we know that there are opportunities to make experiments as a Swedish university in other countries and get travel grants for going there, staying there, and that does not exist to go to Lund.
Factor that is hindering, I think, a Swedish participant at this site, so something to consider at least.
Especially when you have larger groups of students, yeah. How is this financed now if you want to go with a group of students?
Yeah.
Sender, perfect. We now have a sender. To what you were talking about, Shirin, it's a similar kind of thinking. Okay, one last word. Data analysis, we have talked about travel and hotel funding, which is exactly... tell me.
It's about a biobank, having access of the biomaterial at one place where currently we lack in the R&D. A big R&D facilities makes easier for the researchers to conduct research and save a lot of time.
I'm Malin Burstedt from RISE, and when we work with small and medium-sized industry companies, they don't actually understand what they gain from these really, really nice techniques. And when we start to show them with, for example, we know projects, which has been excellent.
The companies, what are we talking about specifically? Could you give some concrete examples?
I think we have to publish it first. No, but when we publish it, we will try to communicate it better than we have.
Vinnova project is good. We already talked about that. Was this the last question? Did we have a fourth question? No? Okay, is there anything of vital importance? Hult, Oliver Bilker, Selma Maric, and Jon Sporring. Give them an applause, please. And bottlenecks in a very practical way and discuss strategies to overcome those impediments. Before we go through that, I'd like the panel just say hello. Who are you? What do you work with, please?
Space of helping scientists that produce images at these large facilities, that they actually turn these particular pixels into knowledge.
Yes, Selma Maric. I think most of the people here know me from Max4, and I stood in this meeting. 4 is supposed to be an exponential, because we think that joining facilities, industry, and academia together, we can be exponentially better at solving challenges. But it has changed since last year, and I want to take that up. Last year, I made you all stand up, and I would like to do that today as well. So we have in this, thank you, you can all come and talk to us later, but we started this new phase in May this year, with a new phase of Spirit that is now called ARI, and we are developing ways.
At Umeå University, I'm not a user of Max4 or of neutrons, so I'm finding it hard to comment on specific bottlenecks here. I'm associated with 2 other items on the VR budget, and one's the much smaller items, I hasten to add. One is the European Molecular Biology Laboratory, which I find inspiring as an example of European research cooperation, aimed to leverage our link to the EMBO network for the benefit of Swedish research more generally.
What did you think about the malaria mosquito? Being a malaria expert, what did you think when you saw that image? Was there anything in it that surprised you?
I was absolutely stunned by the possibility to get this comprehensive picture of how a parasite interacts with its mosquito. Now, of course, I would immediately like to see that in different species, get at the fine detail of the interaction, do experiments.
Taking care of trying to support our directors with our 2 host countries, as we have both Sweden and Denmark.
Pia, you are also one of the authors, one of the 4 authors. Daniel was part of it too, sitting here. Yeah.
I would tell you, to begin with, I need to say that this is not published yet. We are not finished yet with the report. And I'm very grateful for my dear colleagues like Daniel and Kajsa and Monica Ringvik from RISE. At the time, she is now paper. It's actually just trying to list what we know today with the input from different kind of actors in the system, the university. And thank you so much for all the input we have got, both by asking people directly, but also sending it around and getting a lot of input. So this is just the question that we have talked about all day today. Data, computing, analysis, visualization, that part is, I would say, and I think we agree in the group, is the biggest bottleneck right now in all different kind of aspects, when it comes to both capacity, storage, systems. So that I would say maybe is the second one, the second bottleneck. And the third would be the ability to actually work with collaboration and build consortia like published yet.
I read it. It's
soon in a bookstore close to you.
Yeah, and it's easy to read. A good.
I hope so.
Yeah, hope so. A good read. So if we start looking for solutions, before we do that, who are the stakeholders that can fix things? Who are they in the system?
Well,
maybe you or Selma?
And we've started with a mapping of everything that is going on. There is so much going on, and we have done quite a lot. I think first time I came to one of these meetings, a lot of things has happened. How can we then? And it also something that comes through in the report. What the users need is a certain type of competence, and there is one section that I want to take up, which is about relationships that can be either in academia or in industry. It's not really relevant, but them working together, I think that is the key. And I want to take up this the pilot projects that have those, and additionally, relevant instruments where we can also standardize that are relevant for industrial and other challenges. And I haven't even come to the clinicians, but we can take that later. But I think all of those things in parallel need to hold
in the system to know, yeah, you should talk to this guy who's sitting up on the second floor. So how do we, with respect, people who have competence, make a very clear system that is easy? If Shirin comes, she knows exactly this is the person
of advanced neutron and X-ray science, which is quite a small organization, but has built a huge international network where people can just join different activities and start doing that, where things can happen on their own even. So I think we need to build up more the
system right now.
I would enter this sort of system like perhaps an industrial user through a collaboration. I wouldn't enter it myself, and I think that's true for many of the scientists around me. And it's the experts, and see, this is exactly how it works. Right? This is why it's beneficial to be part of a broad scientific network that exposes us to a broad range of science outside of our discipline, and gives us the ideas of
from the inside of the facilities, but also from the community that is already sort of competent to use the facilities. It has been kept as a secret club for a long time, actually. And now we have the way you can go and you can find this that is actually broadening your range of knowledge.
I completely get your club criticism, because in my previous life I worked at the Wellcome Sanger Institute, which is heavily technology driven, and you could put basic, you know, if I look at so like whatever Germany and France, when they built their synchrotrons, put an EMBO site next to them to as a separate institution, but helping develop the technology and create inspirational science. So perhaps you want to.
It's so difficult.
So before I have a comment to the previous discussion, if I may first. I think, as Pia was saying, the data analysis is a huge bottleneck. So I'm a professor in computer science. I engage myself in the stuff that I think there's at least some chance that it'll be a research question for me. But the more not only beamline scientists, but also the post data scientist in some way, and we're trying to experiment with this in KIN, but also in the European and all the national.
Yeah, well, I'm data imaging, first data processing, and then imaging. Why is this so complex? Why does it have to cost so much? What is the quality of the work that's being done into
identifying objects or structures in these images? And these days we are all using AI, which basically means that for 10, 15 years we used third-degree polynomials. Now we're using models that have billions of parameters, and in the future ESS. That is, someone has to sit down and teach these machines what it is it's going to find for us. This takes an enormous amount of time. It's not something you necessarily just can delegate to one of my in this community here is, as opposed to the medical community, where there are lots of CT images of lungs, and there's cohorts of patients that are ill or healthy, and you can do all kinds of work to be, one mosquito, or maybe if you're lucky, 5, but then you're really lucky, right? And how can you conclude anything from this? And so my view on that is that it's extremely important that we build a.
Can I ask you here? Thank you. Very interesting. The 3 months to prepare, the 1 day to do, and the 3 years to analyze. Yes. Can we shorten that? I mean, you're talking about instructing the system. So what it should look.
But in our work, we're trying to help. We call them users. I think we should call them researchers, etc. But we also researchers, and it becomes a little bit confusing. So we just call them users. We've in the work with to discover in your images. I will happily give you my thoughts on this. So that's one level. Then there's the other level, which is just standard methods. And these standard methods, they're slowly, becoming well understood, etc., including some of them are AI. There are many. So I work with geometry and topology and statistics. And presently, my dream project is understanding how we can use topological measures to do statistical analysis of data. So that could be paper fiber.
Interesting thoughts on data analysis.
Can I add on with the data and the standardization? I think this is really important, and also not just for the imaging, but also other techniques. We heard a lot. You can get more what we discussed this morning. I think this is doable, but it takes a lot of investment in doing that, enabling that.
And would it be shareable between users, the standard?
biosec side, but I think it's something we need to explore.
Oliver, any thoughts on the data imaging?
No, it's not data.
And Jon, what could you envision?
I would rely on collaborators who can provide the deep analysis of the data, and I would put in the biology and the science.
You will put in the 4 other mosquitoes. We already have 1. We need a couple more to start getting some more data.
Well, don't underestimate how many mosquitoes we can produce.
The mosquito fly, it's another kind of fly, isn't it? Yeah. So we have 2 at least.
2 at least. Yeah, exactly. So Pia, we talked about data analysis and maybe ESS providing space for people to sit and work with this. What are your thoughts?
No, but I mean, as Helmut said, this is already sort of in our strategy and in our plan. So it's only, in a way, it's surprising thing for us taking in the AI now that we are now doing is extremely important. So we are prepared when opening for what is happening it will happen a lot in these years we have left around us. So that's more, I think we have in the strategy, we have data management centers.
Access, but then I was became a bit thoughtful because sort of the facilitator to make a lot of things happen was like the government in 9 out of 10 cases. And I was thinking of the poor overworked secretarial level.
Quite a lot can be done at the operational level. I think we have actually taken away but then of course at the end of the day it's a value chain. So even if the facility can solve some of the bottlenecks, maybe the facility needs to get that kind of assignment and funding. But then there are things like this with the, we have a problem in the future for Sweden when in accordance to ESS, because we cannot second people from other universities in the other part of the country because of rules for the authorities that the universities are. That needs to be a law change. So then we're back to the parliament.
And as ESS starts with its first science, making that a success, seeing the sort of bottlenecks melting away. What would you like to see, Pia?
Well, to start, a little bit that we actually discussed at the table, and to see more of a joint force between the facilities up here in the north when it comes to handling and just when it comes to that extremely big bottleneck that I think we need to focus on.
Selma?
Yes, well, I discussed a little bit, and it was the first time we met with Robert, who, when he was a user, not Robert Weidenhauser, Robert McGreevy, who, when he was a user, he had to build his own instrument, and then it doesn't really matter if they're in industry, academia, or at the facility, that we can invest in that type of competence that can bridge this, and competence program that can allow for that. And environments where this can happen and we can join around common challenges. So I'm pushing for ARI for Sweden, obviously.
Well, I've got perhaps 2 comments left on my mind, because to find what are the unique selling points of individual facilities that might be promoted and attract certain users and really push the limits of what can be done. So I wonder just how much of that exists and how much of that discussion is ongoing. And the second, seriously, this is something I thought could be useful, and the unique selling point argument was mentioned previously. And then this is also how we approach infrastructure collaboration through our partnership, that we often try infrastructures in our partnership.
And Jon, from your perspective, data imaging.
Yeah, I think I have two dreams. So working with feasibility studies in some simple way is a key way to do it. And the other thing is I'm happy that for the first time now our center is a little check mark at the.
And I guess if we're looking for inspirational stories, this will be part of the communication too afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just add on to that, because we're all with the clinicians, right? And we talked about this cost of beam time, which is the low. I mean, we are half the price of.
This is going to work.
Okay, I want to thank this. This was the last panel of the day. I think we give them a good round of applause.
Thank you.
We've had an excellent off. Katarina Bjelke, Swedish Research Council, who is our host, one of our two hosts today. I have learned a lot. What have you learned, seen, heard today?
Well, I think, I mean, my background is in medicine, and listening to the needs and then the barriers. I would like to focus, of course, of the possibilities, because that is what's really interesting and in many ways. And that is that people go where excellence is, and industry goes where the excellent people are. And in order for Sweden to be competitive, I think that we need to have this
graduation to, in terms of the depth of engagement and knowledge of what, I mean, each year we become more and more clear about the issues at hand, and also the facility. At the beginning it was like, what were Sweden with these facilities? What are you hearing?
Well, a lot. They are expecting a lot of these facilities and a lot of what comes out of them. Oh, I have someone. A lot of what will really come out is. So that's, I think, what they will demand and what they want to hear about. So we have to step up.
Yeah. So, and part of this making, creating awareness and knowledge, inspiration.
Sweden, but we have some suggestions somewhere in the south, so maybe that will happen. And the next time, I'm also happy to say that I spoke a little bit with Hans.
Again, or you will meet again.
Yes,
give her an applause
absolutely. For this. So thank you very much, and see you all.
And I should also say now that, okay, we are now ending the formal session, the informal variety.
Just one more thing. I would like to thank you, Maria. As always, you are excellent, so it's a good thing to have you here. Thank you very much for today. Thank you. Let's go to the ethanol.